When my son told me I was no longer needed in his house, I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't even argue. I just looked at him, this man I had carried in my body, and I saw a stranger. My daughter-in-law stood behind him with her arms crossed, and my granddaughter wouldn't even look at me. I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because in that moment, I realized something that broke me and freed me at the same time. They had forgotten who I was. They had forgotten everything I had given. And maybe, just maybe, I had forgotten who I was too. I packed my things that night in the small guest room that used to be my son's childhood bedroom. I folded my clothes slowly, touching each item like it carried a memory. My hands were shaking, but I didn't let the tears fall. Not yet. I could hear them downstairs, laughing at something on the television. Life was going on as if nothing had happened. As if I was already gone. And perhaps, in their hearts, I had been gone for a long time. I just hadn't noticed. The next morning, I left before anyone woke up. I wrote a note and left it on the kitchen counter. It said only 3 words, I love you. Because despite everything, despite the pain sitting like a stone in my chest, it was the truth. I loved them. I had always loved them. And that love, I would learn, was both my greatest strength and my deepest wound. My name is Margaret, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 68 years old now, though sometimes I feel ancient and sometimes I feel like I'm still that young mother trying to figure out how to raise 2 children on her own. Yes, on my own. My husband Daniel passed away when our son Jacob was only 12 and our daughter Emma was 9. It was sudden. A heart attack at work. One moment he was there, and the next moment my whole world changed forever. I remember that day like it was yesterday. The police officer at the door. The way my knees went weak. The sound that came out of me that didn't even sound human. And then I remember looking at my 2 children, their faces so confused and scared, and I knew I had to be strong. I had to be both mother and father. I had to be everything. So that's what I became. Everything. I worked 2 jobs for years. During the day, I was a secretary at a law firm. At night, I cleaned offices in the business district. I slept maybe 4 or 5 hours a night. I cooked breakfast before dawn and packed lunches with little notes inside. I helped with homework even when my eyes were burning from exhaustion. I saved every penny I could. I wore the same 3 dresses for years. I cut my own hair. I never bought anything for myself that wasn't absolutely necessary. But my children. My children had everything they needed. Jacob played soccer, and I never missed a game. Emma wanted to learn piano, and I found a way to pay for lessons. They had birthday parties. They had Christmas mornings with presents under the tree. They had a mother who showed up, every single day, no matter how tired she was. Jacob grew into a fine young man. He was smart, responsible, good with numbers. He got a scholarship to college, and I cried with joy the day that letter came. He studied business and did well. After graduation, he got a good job at a financial company. I was so proud of him. So proud I could burst. Emma, my sweet Emma, became a teacher. She loved children, loved helping them learn. She got married to a kind man named Thomas, and they moved to another state for his work. We talked on the phone every week. She sent me pictures of her life. I missed her terribly, but I was happy she was happy. Jacob met Rachel when he was 28. She was beautiful, confident, successful in her own career. They dated for 2 years before he proposed. I liked Rachel at first. She was polite to me. She smiled. She seemed to make my son happy. They got married in a lovely ceremony, and I paid for half of it even though it stretched my savings thin. I didn't mind. It was my son's wedding. I wanted it to be perfect. A year later, my granddaughter Sophie was born. Oh, that child. That beautiful, perfect child. I fell in love the moment I saw her. I helped Rachel in those early weeks. I cooked meals, I cleaned, I held the baby so Rachel could sleep. I did everything a grandmother should do. Everything a mother does. Because that's who I am. That's who I've always been. The first time I felt it, I told myself I was imagining things. It was such a small moment. I had come over to help with Sophie, who was about 6 months old then. Rachel was tired, and Jacob had asked if I could spend the day helping out. Of course I said yes. I would have done anything for them. I was feeding Sophie her bottle, rocking her gently and singing a lullaby my own mother used to sing to me. Rachel came into the room and stopped. She watched us for a moment, and I smiled at her. But she didn't smile back. She just said, in a tone that felt somehow cold, "You don't have to sing to her like that. She's fine with just the bottle." I stopped singing. I felt foolish, like I'd done something wrong. "Oh," I said. "I'm sorry. I was just—" "It's fine," Rachel interrupted. "I'm going to lie down for a bit." She left the room, and I sat there holding my granddaughter, feeling strange. Feeling like I'd crossed some invisible line I didn't even know was there. But I pushed the feeling away. Rachel was tired. New mothers are tired. I remembered how that felt. I told myself not to be sensitive. But then it happened again. And again. Small things. Little moments that felt like tiny paper cuts. I would suggest something about Sophie's routine, and Rachel would dismiss it. I would bring over food I'd cooked, and she would thank me, but I'd see it days later, untouched in the refrigerator. I offered to babysit so they could have a date night, and Rachel said they preferred to use a professional babysitter. A professional babysitter. Instead of the baby's grandmother. I tried to talk to Jacob about it once. Very gently. Very carefully. We were having coffee while Rachel was out shopping and Sophie was napping. I said, "Jacob, honey, is everything okay? I feel like maybe Rachel isn't comfortable with me helping so much. I don't want to overstep." He looked surprised. "Mom, what are you talking about? Everything's fine. Rachel appreciates your help. It's just that sometimes she seems— I don't know. I just want to make sure I'm not imposing." Jacob reached over and patted my hand. "You're not imposing, Mom. You're family. Rachel's just adjusting to being a mother. You know how it is." I nodded. I did know how it is. So I told myself to be patient. To give Rachel space. To not take things personally. But it was hard. It was hard because all I wanted was to love my family. To be useful. To be needed. As Sophie grew into a toddler, I saw her less and less. Rachel started saying they were too busy for visits. They had activities planned. Sophie needed her routine. Maybe next week. Maybe next month. I would call to talk to Sophie, and Rachel would say she was napping or eating or busy playing. I started to feel like I was bothering them. Like I was an inconvenience. Then my landlord told me he was selling the building where I'd lived for 20 years. I had 3 months to find a new place. I looked and looked, but everything was so expensive. My pension wasn't much, and rent had gone up so much over the years. I was worried. Really worried. I mentioned it to Jacob during one of our phone calls. I tried not to sound desperate, but I'm sure he heard it in my voice. "The rent everywhere is just so high," I said. "I'm looking, but it's hard on my budget." There was a pause. Then Jacob said, "Mom, why don't you move in with us for a while? Just until you find something affordable. We have that guest room. Sophie would love having you around more." I felt such relief. Such gratitude. Are you sure? I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. You're my mother. Let me talk to Rachel, but I'm sure it'll be fine. He called me back the next day. Rachel had agreed. They would help me move in next month. I thanked him over and over. I felt so grateful. So blessed to have a family that would take care of me the way I had taken care of them. I should have known it wouldn't be that simple. The first month living with Jacob and Rachel wasn't terrible. It was awkward, but not terrible. I tried to be helpful without being intrusive. I kept my things in the guest room. I cleaned up after myself immediately. I offered to cook dinner sometimes, and Rachel usually said yes. I played with Sophie when she wanted to play with me, but I didn't push it when she was busy with her toys or her parents. But I could feel tension in the house. It was like a thin wire pulled tight, humming with a frequency only I could hear. Rachel was polite but distant. She would thank me for things but never really talk to me. Never ask about my day or my life. Jacob was busy with work, leaving early and coming home late. Sophie was the only bright spot. She would run to me sometimes and hug my legs and ask me to read her a story. Those moments made everything else bearable. One evening, I was in the kitchen preparing dinner. I had made pot roast, one of Jacob's favorite meals from childhood. I was humming to myself, feeling useful and content. Rachel came in and stopped when she saw me. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Making dinner," I said, smiling. "Pot roast. Jacob loves it." Rachel's face did something complicated. "I already ordered dinner," she said. "It'll be here in 20 minutes. My smile faded. "Oh. I'm sorry. Jacob didn't mention. I thought I was helping." "We have a system, Maggie," Rachel said, and her voice was tight. "I plan the meals. I know what we're eating. You don't need to just take over the kitchen." Take over. Those words stung. "I wasn't taking over," I said quietly. "I was just cooking." "I'm sorry." Rachel sighed. "It's fine. We can save it for tomorrow." But her tone said it wasn't fine. Nothing was fine. I put the pot roast in the refrigerator and went to my room. I sat on the bed feeling small and foolish. Feeling like a guest who'd overstayed her welcome even though I'd only been there a month. I heard Rachel on the phone later, her voice low but sharp. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew the tone. She was upset. And I was the reason. Things got worse after that. Rachel started leaving notes. "Please don't rearrange the pantry. Please don't give Sophie snacks before dinner. Please ask before using the washing machine." Little rules. Little boundaries. Each one making me feel smaller and more unwelcome. I tried talking to Jacob again. "Honey," I said one Saturday morning when Rachel had taken Sophie to a playdate. "I'm grateful to be here, I truly am. But I feel like I'm making Rachel uncomfortable. Maybe I should look harder for an apartment. Maybe I should." "Mom, stop," Jacob said, but he sounded tired. Worn down. "Rachel's just particular about her house. You know how she is. Just try to follow her rules and everything will be fine." Her house. Not their house. Not our house. Her house. And I was just a guest who didn't know the rules. I tried. I really tried. I stayed in my room more. I asked permission for everything. I made myself as small and quiet as possible. But it was never enough. The tension kept building. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. I had picked up Sophie from daycare because Rachel had a meeting and Jacob was working late. It was something I'd done a few times before, so I didn't think anything of it. Sophie and I went to the park for an hour. We fed the ducks and she laughed and I felt, for that hour, like myself again. Like I had purpose. When we got home, Rachel's car was in the driveway. We walked in and she was standing in the living room, her face pale and her hands shaking. "Where were you?" she said, her voice sharp. "At the park," I said, confused. "You said you'd be home at 6. It's only 5:30. "I didn't say you could take her to the park," Rachel said. "I said pick her up and bring her home. That's it." "But Sophie wanted to play, and it was such a nice day." "She's not your daughter," Rachel shouted. The words echoed in the quiet house. Sophie's hand tightened in mine. "She's mine. Mine and Jacob's. You don't get to make decisions about her. You don't get to just do whatever you want." I felt like I'd been slapped. "I was just trying to help," I whispered. "Well, I don't need your help," Rachel said. "I don't need you undermining me. I don't need you acting like you know better. This is my family. My family. Not our family. My family." I looked at Sophie, her little face confused and scared. I let go of her hand gently. "Go to your room, sweetheart," I said softly. She ran off, and I heard her door close. "Rachel," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm sorry if I overstepped. I wasn't trying to undermine you. I was just being a grandmother." "You're being a problem," Rachel said. She was crying now, angry tears. "You're always here. Always watching. Always judging. I can't breathe in my own house. Jacob won't say anything because he feels guilty, but I'm done. I'm done pretending this is working." The door opened. Jacob came in, home early, and he took in the scene. Both of us crying. The air thick with words that couldn't be taken back. "What's going on?" he asked. Rachel turned to him. "I can't do this anymore," she said. "I can't live like this. She has to go." Jacob looked at me. And in that look, I saw everything. I saw his exhaustion. I saw his conflict. I saw him weighing his wife against his mother. And I already knew which way the scale would tip. Which way it should tip. He had to choose his wife. His marriage. His family. I understood that. Even as it shattered me, I understood. "Mom," he said quietly. "Maybe Rachel's right. Maybe it's time you found your own place. We can help you look. We can help with the deposit. But maybe this isn't working." I nodded. I couldn't speak. If I spoke, I would break. So I just nodded. I went to my room. I closed the door. And finally, I let myself cry. I found a small apartment within 2 weeks. It was tiny, just a bedroom and a bathroom and a little kitchenette. It was in an older building on the edge of town. It wasn't much, but it was what I could afford. Jacob gave me money for the deposit, and I took it because I had no choice. He helped me move my things. Rachel didn't come. Sophie didn't say goodbye. The first night in my new apartment, I sat on the floor because my furniture hadn't been delivered yet. I sat in the dark and I felt so alone. So completely, utterly alone. I thought about my life. About all the years I'd worked and sacrificed and given everything I had. And for what? To end up here? To be pushed out like I didn't matter? I felt angry. For the first time, I let myself feel really, truly angry. Not at Rachel, exactly. She was just protecting her family, her space. I understood that. But at the unfairness of it all. At being needed for so long and then suddenly not needed. At giving everything and being left with almost nothing. But anger is exhausting. And I was already so tired. Days turned into weeks. Jacob called sometimes, quick conversations that felt obligatory. How are you settling in? Do you need anything? Okay, good. I have to go, Mom. Work is crazy. Rachel never called. I asked about Sophie and he said she was fine. Growing. Talking more. I ached to see her, but I didn't ask. I didn't want to be a burden. Emma called more often. She heard what happened from Jacob, and she was upset. Mom, I can't believe they did that to you, she said. You can come stay with us. Thomas and I would love to have you. You're too far away, sweetheart, I said. My life is here. I'll be okay. Are you okay? She asked, and her voice was so full of concern that I almost broke. I will be, I said. And I meant it. Or at least, I wanted to mean it. I started building a new life. A small life, but mine. I volunteered at the library on Tuesdays. I joined a community center that had activities for seniors. I made a friend named Dorothy who was a widow too. We had coffee together on Thursdays and talked about our children and our lives and all the things we'd lost and found along the way. You raised good kids, Dorothy said to me once. You did your job. Now you have to let them live their lives. But I feel so forgotten, I admitted. You're not forgotten, she said. You're just not needed in the same way. And that's hard. But it doesn't mean all those years didn't matter. They mattered. You matter. Her words helped. A little. But there was still a hole in my heart shaped like my family. 6 months after I moved out, I got a call late at night. It was Jacob, and his voice was shaking. Mom, he said. Can you come? Please. I need you. My heart jumped. What's wrong? Is Sophie okay? Sophie's fine. Everyone's fine. I need to talk to you. Can you come tomorrow? I went. Of course I went. He was my son. Jacob was alone when I arrived. Rachel had taken Sophie to her mother's house for the weekend. He made coffee with shaking hands and we sat at the kitchen table, the same table where so many uncomfortable meals had happened. He looked terrible. Tired. Older. Mom, he said. I'm so sorry. I waited. I've been thinking about everything, he continued. About how we treated you. How I treated you. You gave up everything for Emma and me. You worked yourself to the bone. You were there for every single thing. And the moment you needed us, we pushed you away. Jacob, I started, but he held up his hand. Let me finish. Please. He took a breath. Rachel and I have been in counseling. Our marriage has been struggling, and not because of you. Because of us. Because we don't communicate. Because she has control issues and I avoid conflict. And in therapy, we talked about you. About what happened. And she admitted that she was unfair. She felt threatened by you. By how much Sophie loved you. By how much I talked about you. She felt like she could never measure up to the perfect mother I described. I shook my head. I was never perfect. I know that. But I made her feel like you were. And instead of dealing with her insecurity, she pushed you out. And I let her. Because it was easier than fighting. Easier than standing up for you. Tears ran down his face. Mom, I am so sorry. You didn't deserve that. You deserved better. You deserved everything. I reached across the table and took his hand. Jacob, I said softly. You were in a hard position. Your wife and your mother. I understand. No, he said firmly. Don't make excuses for me. I should have done better. I should have been better. You're my mother. You sacrificed everything for me. And I threw you away the moment it became inconvenient. We both cried then. We sat at that table and we cried together. All the hurt and guilt and love and regret spilled out between us. I don't know if I can fix this, Jacob said. But I want to try. If you'll let me. Rachel wants to apologize to you too. She's working on herself. We both are. And Sophie asks about you constantly. She misses you. I miss her too, I whispered. I miss all of you. Will you come to dinner next week? He asked. No pressure. No expectations. Just dinner. Just family. I thought about it. I thought about the pain. About the risk of being hurt again. But I also thought about love. About forgiveness. About the fact that people make mistakes and sometimes, if you're lucky, they learn from them. Okay, I said. Dinner. That dinner was awkward. Rachel apologized, and I could see it was hard for her. I could see she meant it. We didn't become best friends that night. We didn't erase everything that happened. But it was a start. A small, fragile start. Sophie climbed into my lap and showed me all her drawings from school. I made this one for you, Grandma, she said, holding up a picture of two stick figures holding hands. That's you and me. I held that drawing like it was the most precious thing in the world. Because it was. Over the following months, things slowly got better. I visited once a week for dinner. Sometimes Rachel and I talked, really talked, about being mothers and about expectations and about fear. She told me about her own mother who had been critical and cold, and how she was terrified of being compared to anyone. I told her about my fear of being useless, of not mattering anymore. We were both just scared women trying our best. Once I saw that, it was easier to forgive. Jacob made more effort too. He called just to talk. He brought Sophie to visit my apartment. He asked about my life, my friends, my volunteering. He saw me as a person again, not just as his mother who existed to serve. Emma came to visit for a week, and we all had dinner together. My whole family in one place. It wasn't perfect. There were still uncomfortable moments. Still things left unsaid. But there was also laughter. There was Sophie's giggles. There was Jacob's smile. There was Rachel passing me the potatoes and saying, "Your pot roast recipe is really good. Will you teach me how to make it?" Small moments. Small bridges built word by word, meal by meal, forgiveness by forgiveness. I'm 70 now. 2 years have passed since the night I left Jacob's house with a broken heart. 2 years of healing and rebuilding and learning who I am beyond being someone's mother. Beyond being someone's everything. I still live in my small apartment. I've made it cozy with plants and pictures and my favorite books. Dorothy and I still have coffee on Thursdays. I still volunteer at the library. I've even started taking a watercolor class at the community center. I'm not very good, but I enjoy it. I'm learning that doing things just for joy, just for me, isn't selfish. It's necessary. I see my family regularly now. Once a week for dinner, sometimes more if there's a special occasion. Sophie is 6 now, and she stays overnight at my apartment sometimes. We make pancakes in the morning and she tells me about her friends and her dreams. Those are my favorite times. Rachel and I have found our balance. We're not close, not exactly. But we're kind to each other. We respect each other. She's a good mother. She loves my son. She's doing her best. That's all any of us can do. Jacob is trying. Really trying. He's more present now, more aware. He tells me he loves me, and I believe him. Not because he has to say it, but because he shows it. In the calls. In the visits. In the way he asks my opinion and actually listens to the answer. Emma is pregnant with her first child. I'm going to be a grandmother again. She asked if I would come stay with her for a month after the baby is born, to help out. I said yes, but this time I know it will be different. This time I know my place. Not as someone who takes over, but as someone who supports. There's a difference, and I'm still learning it. I've learned a lot these past 2 years. I've learned that giving everything doesn't mean you'll get everything back. That sacrifice doesn't guarantee gratitude. That children grow up and build their own lives, and that's how it should be, even when it hurts. I've learned that I spent so many years being what everyone needed that I forgot to be myself. I forgot that I matter too. Not just as a mother or a grandmother. But as Maggie. As a person with interests and feelings and worth. I've learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to move forward even when the past still aches. It's about understanding that people are complicated and flawed, and sometimes they hurt the people they love. And sometimes, if everyone is willing to try, you can find your way back to each other. But most importantly, I've learned that I raised my children to be independent. To build their own lives. To make their own choices. And that means sometimes those choices won't include me in the way I want. And that's okay. It has to be okay. Because love isn't about holding on so tight you suffocate each other. It's about holding on gently and knowing when to let go. I look at that drawing Sophie made, the one of the 2 stick figures holding hands. I have it framed on my wall. Sometimes I look at it and remember the pain of that time. But mostly I look at it and remember that we found our way back. That love, real love, survives mistakes and hurt and distance. My children didn't forget who raised them. Not really. They just forgot for a while. They got lost in their own lives and struggles. But they found their way back. And I found my way back to myself. I forgive them. I forgive Rachel for protecting her family the only way she knew how. I forgive Jacob for being human and flawed and caught in the middle. And I forgive myself too. For expecting too much. For making my whole identity about being needed. For forgetting that I am enough just as I am. If you're reading this, if you're listening to my story, maybe you're in a similar place. Maybe your children have hurt you. Maybe you feel forgotten or pushed aside. Maybe you gave everything and feel like you have nothing left. I want you to know that you matter. What you did mattered. What you gave mattered. Even if they can't see it right now. Even if they never fully understand the depth of your sacrifice. It still mattered. You still matter. And I want you to know that it's okay to build a life for yourself. It's okay to find joy outside of being someone's parent. It's okay to be more than your role in someone else's story. You deserve that. You've earned that. Forgiveness is hard. It's messy. It's not a single decision but a choice you make over and over again. Some days are easier than others. Some days the hurt comes back and you have to choose forgiveness all over again. But it gets lighter. It gets easier. The burden you carry becomes something you can set down, at least for a while. Family is complicated. Love is complicated. But if there's honesty and effort and genuine desire to do better, healing is possible. Not perfect. Not without scars. But possible. I'm grateful for where I am now. For my small apartment and my Thursday coffees and my watercolor classes. For weekly dinners and Sophie's overnight visits. For Rachel's slow thaw and Jacob's conscious effort. For Emma's excitement about her baby and her invitation to help. But I'm also grateful for the journey. For the pain that taught me who I am. For the loneliness that taught me to be my own companion. For the forgiveness that taught me that love is stronger than hurt. I'm Maggie. I'm 70 years old. I'm a mother and a grandmother and a friend and a volunteer and a terrible watercolor artist. I'm a woman who gave everything and lost herself and found herself again. I'm a woman who was forgotten and remembered. Who was hurt and healed. And I'm still here. Still standing. Still loving. Still forgiving. And that, I've learned, is enough. That is more than enough. That is everything.